been stuck in a rut lately? Welcome to In the Rut podcast with your hosts, Josh Merritt and Maci Devenport.
Welcome to episode 3. We are so happy you're here. We appreciate all the feedback on the last episode with Josh's recap of his 2023 GNCC season. If you have not listened to it, go check that out. It is a breakdown of the 12 rounds, a little bit of preseason, talked a little bit about his summer break, his highs, his lows, everything in between. So it was a great podcast. We are super happy to hear from you guys. Super happy you're here again today. So without further ado, today is going to be it'll be essentially what we did with Josh, but for my first GNCC season. Now, I only raced 5 GNCC races this year, so it will be much shorter than Josh's. It will be also different because obviously I raced in the morning. I am a rookie, and yeah, I'm really excited to get into it. Josh is going to be the one asking the questions.
So I get to ask the questions today, guys, and I'm very excited to kind of go through Maci's first ever GNCC season, but her also first ever XC season. So we're going to get into how she started racing first, because we kind of went over it at the beginning of the first ever podcast, but just kind of want to briefly go over that and then get into what happened this year. Because obviously you race some locals, you did a little bit of riding, and then obviously the 5 GNCCs. So why don't you start off of how you got into racing first off, and kind of just give us an outline of your motocross, your motocross background.
So I mentioned it in our intro, and I would like to mention the first thing my mom had said. My mom is a huge supporter. Thanks, Mom. I know you're going to be listening to this, but she wanted me to make sure I corrected myself. I raced motocross nationally for 10 years, not 12 or 13 like previously mentioned. I grew up in the sport of ATV motocross. When I first started, I was 7 or 8, and that was when the sport was booming. And then
factory riders and all that kind of stuff.
Everyone, Red Bull, Rockstar, all of the things. So we had Dustin Wimmer, Doug Gus,
lots of
Chad Wienen was
legends.
Still in Pro-Am. Yeah, so it was a really big deal. And when we started racing the ATV MX series at a national level, I want to say it was right when the 2007-2008 recession had hit. And so I remember my first race, I believe in 2007, was at High Point MX. I got out of the top 10, 7 of the kids were from our locals. Our local series was extremely competitive. And I think at one point, our parents kind of looked at each other and like, why are we coming here and doing this? You know, we could have this competition at home.
Save some money, not have to travel, all that kind of stuff.
But like I said, when I had started in a CVT youth class, there was 42 kids. You had to qualify to enter the main events. So compared to the numbers that there are today, I think 4-wheeler parts and just it was more accessible to people. And I don't know. I think just people kind of grew and went different directions in racing in general.
So like, how did you do? Like, so you kind of worked through the ranks in motocross. So you started on a CVT, then you went to a mod?
Yeah. So when I had first started, they actually did not have any girls classes, women's classes, none of that.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm sorry.
So you were racing against the guys.
Yes, they did have a women's class. They had a women's class.
Like pro.
And yes, they had women's pro. Heather Bird had won, I want to say 7 championships.
Oh, wow.
7 or 8. She was kind of like the Tracy of motocross. And then we had Michelle Natali, and I was a huge Michelle Natali fan. I loved her. I still do. I look up to her. So those were kind of, my idols growing up. Obviously, their husbands were pros, so they were invested in the sport. They were riding with the best of the best. Yes. They were fully involved. So, but like I had said, when I was in youth, they didn't have girls' classes. The first year that I had won a championship was in 2011, and it was in 90 production, which basically I was still on a CVT, but you could have you could be on a Cobra, it just had to be a production type bike. And that class was a male dominated class. It was hard fought. I actually raced against Grayson Eller in that
That's
class.
pretty cool.
I raced with Grayson. I grew up with Hayden Mickelson, 4x4 pro. I'm trying to think.
So a lot of people have moved over from
I
the
think overall,
motor world.
Yeah, it's a safer sport. You're still going fast. You're still running into trees. But I had a couple pretty bad accidents in my motocross career. That
What kind of accidents did you get into? Like,
I
just briefly.
I dislocated my left hip. I broke my back.
Oh, geez.
And I've broke both my arms and my left wrist. They were all separate events.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So, yeah. So my first year that I had won a championship, like I said, it was in 90 production. And then I think kind of my mom had done a really, really good job on social media. Back in the day, I had a Facebook page that had over 10,000 followers on Facebook. My mom was really, really good at that. And so I don't know if the AMA had kind of realized there was a handful of girls around my age that we were sort of coming up through the ranks together. And my mom just kept making it a point, like, these girls are riding against boys. They're bigger than them. They're stronger than they are. And they're still going out there and they're kicking butt.
That's very cool.
So AMA introduced girls classes. And we had a schoolgirl junior, schoolgirl senior. And that was like, I want to say maybe 12 to 14 and then 13 to 15 type deal.
Yep.
And then that was also when they rolled out like a youth all-star class, which is basically 250 mods and so on. So after 2011 and 2012 was the year that I won 2 championships. I won.
So you're racing multiple classes a year.
Yes. So that year that I won Youth Rider of the Year, I think I raced three classes, or at least 2. I obviously raced 2 because I won 2 championships. But yes, I raced 3 classes because I rode the girls class that I won, the other 90 class that I had won, and then I was racing in 90 mod, which was basically like maybe
the fast guys.
Yeah, maybe it would be like Youth Row 1.
Okay. Yep.
And that was the best of the
like
best.
150s, pretty much.
It was like the big boys. They were a lot of racers that you would see move into pro and like actually finish out their career. They were doing well in that class.
Gotcha.
And my dad had always said, you need to ride with better people to get faster. And that was a great thing about motocross. And the difference that I kind of had to learn was I was able to go out in a weekend. I mean, I was doing 3 practice sessions on Friday. So I could go out as many as 9 times if I wanted to in practice.
Holy smokes.
And
how long is a practice session?
4 laps.
4 laps. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's either that or it's timed. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And then, so I could choose to practice on Saturday. They did have a quick Saturday morning practice, same thing with Sunday, but then I would race 3 times that year. I mean, I was in.
Now, were all those races, were they like heat races and then a main, or was it like just 2 motos?
So on Saturday, I had to qualify for the 90 mod class, which was basically like the youth first. That was a very stacked class. The 90 production that I had won also was a pretty popular class, and sometimes I would have to qualify for it. Those were technically heat races, but you still did went into effect with your overall results. Sunday obviously took precedence over your Saturday results. But yeah, I mean, I was having a great time. I was in great shape. The 4-wheeler that I had raced 90 production on, we actually were able to kind of get it around with a loophole. I was on a Cobra, but it had a KTM.
That was a Suzuki.
Yeah, it was a Suzuki
85 head.
Yes. So technically it was a production bottom end. And so at the beginning of the year, though, it was hard to get to kind of finesse, and we were kind of going through some bike troubles. But man, when it clicked, and I don't know, we just kind of never looked back. Yeah. But that bike was pretty temperamental. So I only raced that at the track. I didn't practice it at the track at all. Like,
probably smart.
It was,
because it probably would have blown up during the race if you would have raced or rode it in practice.
Yeah. So we had actually purchased a 90 that I raced the 90 mod class on, a 85 in from the Mickelsons. Actually, it was Hayden's. and that we just kind of called that the workhorse. I practiced on it, I raced it, and in the 90 mod class, and that thing was my favorite. It was like this little compact 4-wheeler. I loved it. So that year, I kind of wasn't sure what was going to happen. I went to the banquet, didn't know I was going to win the Youth Rider of the Year.
So we have 2 Youth Rider of the Years right here.
Yes. I think actually, was it the year that you...
I won my championship in 2008.
Okay. So 4-year difference.
Yeah.
But so for a while I was like, that was great. 2012, that was obviously my highlight year. I actually won a full set of shocks at the banquet that year. It was a blast. Then I went into 2013. I had won another championship. I did take a little bit of a step back because
So you were in high school?
Yes, this is when I came into high school. I was playing high school sports. I was never super good. I wasn't a star athlete at anything else, but I did try everything else because I always was active. It was always a great way to stay conditioned. So 2013 won my 4th championship. 2014 I was like within a month of the season, and I dislocated my hip. At an indoor track. My dad had drove. I take that back. That was 2013 that I dislocated my hip.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything here.
Yeah,
so
that's a long time
dislocated
ago.
my hip. My dad had actually drove overnight to pick up a 150. He didn't sleep. We got up and drove straight to an indoor practice track for me to ride this new 4-wheeler that he went and bought. And I don't know, I just didn't jive very well with it. And I had to be life flighted for that one. And
Oh, wow.
I was more concerned in that moment. I was in a lot of pain, but my mom was there, and she didn't always come to my mom never missed a race, but she didn't always come to practice events because she was at home prepping throughout the week for the races. Both of my parents worked extremely hard for me to be able to do what I did. So we were a well-oiled machine. We all did what we needed to do for us to be able to go and enjoy the races. So, but ironically, she was there for that. And, I was in excruciating pain, but I just knew my season was over. And as a young kid, that was my life.
Definitely.
It was it. So it was extremely hard. My mom, I was life flighted. I went to a small hospital first. They didn't know I was too small, even though technically I was 14 or 15 at that point. I was just too small. They didn't have any equipment that could handle my little body. So I had to be life flighted. My mom actually beat the helicopter to the second hospital. My dad was able to come with me on the helicopter. So the first race that year, my mom surprised me and took all of my friends. I was sleeping in the car, and we pulled in. She's like, "Okay, we're here." I woke up. I was like, "We're at the race?" She's like, "No, we're at Kalahari." She wanted to take me, and bless her heart, both my parents, they were trying to take my mind off of it, and I was like, oh, well, I'd rather be at the race.
Guess it's Kalahari.
Yeah, I guess but I had a great weekend with my friends. That year was pretty hard watching everyone race, and then I raced Loretta's that year. Yeah, I did all right, but, so I rode that whole off season. I came back, and I won what was my last championship. I didn't know it was going to be my last championship, but it was.
What class was that in?
That was schoolgirl, and I still was. So
was
I was on a 250.
150s or was it 250s?
I was on a 150, but I was on. It was in a 150 mod frame, so it was. I was not on the 450 frame. It was still a very small bike.
Yep.
At that point, I actually started racing the women's class, which was 450s.
Okay.
Essentially, you had to be 16 and up to ride 450s, but I was 15 and
riding at 250.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry, I said 150, 250s. So I was getting bad starts in the women's class, but I was getting second and third, and this is when Megan Manchek was racing. Katie Meddy was also, I think that's how you say her last name. It's been a long time, but she was also racing, and I was looking up to her actually at that time. She was in school. I think she was in pre-med in school, and I always knew that I had a drive for engineering, so I thought, how cool is it? She's able to go out there. She's old. They were both a lot older than I was, so I looked up to the, at least I looked up to Katie a lot. And same thing, Shay Honeywell, I'm pretty sure she was in pre-med. They both were huge influences in my life outside of racing to see that they could go there. They had extremely good personalities, and then they had business. And then after outside of racing, they also had a really good life. So I won the schoolgirl class, and then I kind of started raising eyebrows a little bit, being able to do so well on a 250 in the women's class. So my last year racing was 2015. I was coming into being a senior in high school, and I was able to race both the 250 and 450 because my birthday is on January 1st. So when I first started racing, our locals had to rewrite their rules because of my birthday. The way that it was kind of like I fell in a gray area of where I needed to be, or if I could stay down or not in classes.
Okay.
And with how little I was, it kind of like, we kind of made the argument like, you know, are you guys going to cause an issue or not if I'm going to stay down? So that year I had a 250 mod that it was a titanium bike, so it was super light. I loved it. And then I also had a 450, and I put a lot of stress on myself. I think a lot of people had kind of hyped up the situation that I was coming into women. Yeah, that was like our women's pro, because we had a women's 40 plus and a women's C. Okay. So that was like our women's pro. And I think everyone just wanted me to come out swinging, and I had a lot of pressure coming into it, because up until that point,
it not fun, or
up until that point, I was dominating.
Oh, no,
I was dominating. Like, to come in and get second, and almost like I was running with the top on a 250 and 450 class was a really big deal. And even like all through the youth classes, I don't know if it was just because I had a great support system, what it was, but I don't know. I got to that last season, and it was a lot of pressure. I raced Daytona, and I actually got ran over, which started out for a really bad year.
Yeah, that's a little scary. How did that come about? How did you get run over? Was it like off the start?
No, it was during the race. And for anybody who has seen the Daytona MX race, it's pretty narrow. It's a pretty narrow track. It's very extremely hard to, it's, in my opinion, a glorified fair cross race. It's very narrow, and I was trying to make a pass, which was not wise. Again, I was extremely nervous. This was my rookie year on a 450 in the women's class, and I was going up the face of a jump, and someone clipped my back wheel as I was going off the jump, and when we both landed, she just ran me over. I had a concussion that day, and I don't remember the day, which is really sad because it was the inaugural Daytona.
First ever Daytona.
Yes,
oh
for
my
ATV
gosh.
MX. And my parents were really big. Obviously, I love school. And so I actually flew in. I went to school on Monday. We flew in Monday night. I raced Tuesday, and I was supposed to be back at school on Wednesday. Like, we were extremely strict about school.
Oh, wow.
But because of my concussion, I ended up missing school on Wednesday, and I came home, and I was supposed to have had an anatomy test, and I couldn't remember everything. And that was one of the biggest wake-up calls I had that I started questioning that was going to be my last season.
Yep. Something serious like that will do that, especially when you're about to go into college and start your life, all that kind of stuff.
And I had already been accepted to my university. I had already been taking college classes since my sophomore year of high school. So I was on a track. I was dedicated to school.
Of schedule.
I knew that racing was just a chapter of my life. And I knew I was going to have a career in engineering. And I had been racing for so long. That accident really did scare me. So I had some highlights of the year. I did win a handful of the women's races that year in the women's class. It was a great year. But all said and done, I think I was just ready for that chapter to be done. Looking back, I can't say for certain because I know at the time I was ready to be done, but I probably could have done one more, and I could have won a women's championship. I ended up the beginning of that season, I didn't race, I think, the first 3 of the schoolgirl class because we just weren't certain that I needed to do it.
Right.
Or we weren't sure exactly what was going on. I fell short. It came down to the last race on the last day of Loretta's for both classes, and I got second in both.
And you needed to win both.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's a lot of pressure right there.
Yeah, it was extremely hard. And I think between just everything combined, I was up until that year, my entire racing career had been pure fun. I worked really hard to be able to earn those wins, but the wins made it fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. Winning's way more fun than getting 10th.
Well, I just wasn't even happy with second. I was really hard on myself. My family is extremely competitive. So
you get to college, you're done.
So I announced my retirement kind of oddly. I'm just like, hey, I'm done. So I quit.
On social media?
Yeah, I just posted like kind of a weird photo, and we told our family that I was going to be racing for the last time. Here's the opportunity to watch Maci race last time. Some people that had never seen me race before in my family, they just followed and supported like through social media and stuff. Were like, holy crap, this is what you guys do on the weekend. So it was a great
That's
last
pretty cool,
local
though.
race. Yeah, it was great. But then I'm done. I really, really enjoyed my senior year of high school. I spent a lot of time with friends. I spent a lot of time doing things that I didn't do during high school, like going to all of the dances and doing all of the sports and going to all the football games. So looking back, I did really enjoy my senior year.
That's good.
I went to college. I will admit, and this is something that I don't think you experienced, so I want to talk about just because I think it's normal. If you are a female or you necessarily aren't going to end up as a pro, and this is just a chapter in your life, I went through an extremely hard time my freshman year of college. Just from the nature of racing, and we live in somewhat of a big town, but like I said, my mom was really good with social media, so a lot of people in town knew what we did. I was known around my school a good bit, and so you go to college, and I'm this really small fish in now a big pond, and trying to fit in outside of racing.
Nobody knows what you did or who you are.
And it's so hard, especially being a female, trying to explain, because I think everyone, or most people at least, that even have a dirt bike are like, oh, I could go out there and do that. Oh, I could go out there and that's easy. I could totally beat you. And I was never the type of person that would be like over explaining what I did or trying to convince people that I did as good as I did, or, I am quote unquote this good. So in college, I didn't really talk about it. I didn't bring it up. It wasn't like my party, like, hey, what's your fun fact about yourself? That wasn't it. I don't know. I'd figure something else out. So
I think we all do that though. Me as a pro, I don't even like telling people I race because it's
hard to explain.
It's hard to explain, and then they say, "Oh, all you do is sit there and press the throttle."
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want to explain to this person. They obviously have no idea.
Yeah, is it worth making them kind of feel like an idiot? I don't know. So, not to be mean, but seriously, if you think, here's my take on it. If you think you can beat me, I'm going to let you just keep on thinking that. And then if the opportunity ever arises, I can't tell you how many times my dad offered not only to take different boys that I went to high school and middle school with to the race, pay for their entry fee, all like A through Z of their to-do list of what they need to do to come race.
I would have loved to see that.
Do you know how many did? Zero. So with all of that being said, though, I went through an extremely hard time. So I was extremely active in high school with racing and with other athletics. So all of that stopped. I went straight into studying.
100 to 0.
Yeah. I mean, my social
life,
my
you just
athletics.
Sold everything?
We sold everything. I was done.
Okay.
I didn't keep a four-wheeler. I kind of knew that the majority of my life I had been all or nothing, and it was going to be really hard just to leisure ride. I had done.
I would have left one. Like, okay.
I don't know. I think
keep in the
my
garage.
parents were so involved. It was such a family sport that I think. I don't know. I think they were sad. We were sad to move on. It's a really big part of life, especially even back then.
That you get to never see because the only time you did is when you traveled.
Yeah. And I think it's hard too because even back then there was social media, but it wasn't as accessible as it is now. So we spent more time, like we were just kids running around outside and we were all together and we weren't glued to our phones, and we did connect through social media and our phones, but then
throughout the week
it was just different. And so I think we all it took a toll on all of us, and I'm an only child. So like I said, my family is a very well-oiled machine, but naturally I was extremely close with my parents. They had me fairly young, I think, and they would openly admit that. So they were first my parents, but they also they parented me very well when I was young. So when I was older and even now, they can be my friends. And they're extremely supportive in everything that I've done. Everything I was able to do was because of them. So
they
I
definitely created the opportunity, but you also took it. So
yeah. So they with all of that being said, I guess I just want people to know out there that if you aren't on the track to be a pro, you aren't on the course to become a pro, or you were looking at, hey, I'm going to go to college or I'm going to enter the workforce when I turn 18. Find other hobbies and find good friends to surround yourself with. It's going to feel weird. You're going to want to find, I guess, just good people to surround yourself with. Yeah. And it's hard. You look back sometimes and you're like, did I peak at like 18? Did I peak in my years of when those were my best years of racing? Like, are there going to be better times to come? Yes. Just wait it out. It's going to be hard. There's going to be a new normal. You'll find it whether you cut off cold turkey like I did, or you kind of ease out of it. Yeah, and just do it more casually, and you're riding leisurely. Just find what works for you, but don't get discouraged. It's going to be hard, but you'll live and you'll still have better days. I promise that wasn't the best. So
well, that's good to know, because a lot of people they race and that's what they live for, and then either funds or family or something gets cut off, injury, and just like that, it's taken away.
And so, and like I said, I was never like a star athlete at anything else. It was that, and that's what people knew me for. And then the other thing is people kept asking me, like, what are you going to do now? What's next? And I had, I felt like I was a very good child. I wasn't bad. I had just done what I was supposed to. I was a rule follower. So I think people kept asking me, like, what's next? And I'm like, I have no clue. School is really hard. Engineering school. Where I went to school for engineering is one of the top engineering schools. So it was hard. It was a competitive college to be in. And I'm like, school's kicking my butt. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have no friends. I'm pretty much miserable. And then at some point it just clicked. I found myself, it took some trial and error. It wasn't perfect by any means. And then stuff just started to fall into place. So fast forward, still in school, I had already earned 1 degree at this point. And then, so in between the time that I retired racing and my senior year, Josh and I, are kind of, I don't know how to, we kind of just like crossed paths a little bit. We worked out at the same gym, and so we had started hanging out a little bit. We had always lived near each other, like I had said in the introduction. And then I came to a few GNCC races, and it was a blast. Actually, in 2013, when I had dislocated my hip, my dad and I went to Ironman to see, like, hey, maybe this is a little bit safer. Should we do this? We saw people that were inebriated at 9 a.m. on Ironman Hill, grown women in costumes, and Dad and I looked at each other, and I was like, I don't know about this. He's like, I don't know about this. So fast
probably not
forward.
the best one to go to.
I know. We didn't know that, though.
But also the best one to go to.
So fast forward to 2015. I went to a couple to watch Josh race. Had a blast. It was a lot of fun. And then I just carried on with school. Josh carried on with what he was going on. We went our like kind of separate ways. He moved down south, and then he moved home unknowingly. I didn't actually know that he had even moved down south, and then moved back home. I was still finishing school, and Josh and I started dating, and I enjoyed going. It was so much fun. The atmosphere at GNCC, and I talk about it all the time, the atmosphere at GNCC is totally different than motocross. I don't know if, like I said, it's because my family's competitive or what, but just the nature of motocross. If you've been at both sporting events, I think you can attest
So I've been
to
to both, and I 100% agree with you. It seems like ATV motocross, they are there to win, and they are there for blood.
It's cutthroat.
Like,
and
yes.
It's hard too, because I think when you were at an ATV motocross race, you were there from Thursday to Sunday. You were riding from Friday to Sunday. So it's not like it's all weekend. Your emotions are heightened because you're going out and competing 3 days, for the weekend.
Yeah,
instead
and
of
then
one.
you get to a GNCC and you have families helping families get a bike together before the race. You're helping. I mean, it's like you have your packs of families of friends. I'm
Yeah.
sure ATV motocross has that too, but like it seems like there's a lot more families together.
Mhm.
I mean, we used to have dinners with 10 plus families and everybody just bring a dish and you just get to pick what you eat.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying there, and I think me introducing you to the sport, and then what gave you the bug to like want to race?
Well, everyone kept saying like, when are you gonna race? Like, when are you gonna race? And I kept like putting it off because at this point, since we had sold everything, I had taught I think 2 or 3 riding schools, maybe 2. And at those, I didn't even ride. I did not. I hadn't
just
thrown my
taught.
leg over a 4-wheeler. Yeah. And then I want to say the summer. What summer did you have me ride in your backyard?
That was last. No,
Was it
that,
last summer?
that was last summer.
Last summer. So Josh and I had been dating for a year and a half at that point, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to ride in my backyard?" And I was like, "Sure, maybe."
And
So
it's a 56-second lap around my backyard
baby
track.
track. So I did, and I was like, "Wow, this is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be." Which was part of the reason I think I stayed off of a 4-wheeler for so long because
You knew you'd be right back on it
Yeah.
if you touched one.
Yeah. So that happened, and then my dad kind of just called me one day and was like, "Hey, so I've been thinking, and if you want a 4-wheeler just for like whether it be just to go like putz around in the woods, or if you want to race, like we had some great times. It was fun. We have a lot of memories. Should we
make some
get a
new one.
4-wheeler?
Let's
Should we
make some
get a
new one.
4-wheeler?" And I was like, let me think about it. So I thought about it, and then it just so happened it was like perfect timing. It was like Johnny Gallagher knew that I needed a 4-wheeler, and he had a old race bike for sale, and we got it.
Yep.
And then so we actually picked up the 4-wheeler when Josh was down in Florida training over winter, and it kind of just sat for a little bit. We had made a few tweaks to the 4-wheeler just for my liking.
Suspension and handlebars, all that kind of stuff.
And so it kind of sat for a few weeks because 1, it was cold, and then 2, I didn't want to ride without Josh. So I did, though. The first like 2 or 3 times I rode without Josh.
Yeah, you and your
just,
dad went out and
Yeah, had fun.
just rode around.
Just rode. So it
I got
was
some
hard.
videos while I was down south, and I was smiling ear to ear. I was like, "Oh, this is cool!"
So-
Like, I get to see. I've never got to see Maci race in my
Yeah.
life, so it kind of sucked because I see all the videos of her doing good and all that, but I never got to see like it in person. So another video would pop up, and it's her, just going around a corner in the
Yeah.
woods. I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
Here we go. So he came home, but regardless, I knew that I needed to finish. So this was like January. Fast forward, May was when I was graduating. I told everyone, like, look, I need to focus on graduating. Then I'll start riding. I will do the last 3 of the GNCC. I will do it after summer break. Well, we got a little antsy, and Josh talked me into racing the Hoosier, which was I was supposed to go walk across graduation stage that weekend, and I missed graduation for it. So
You got to do the graduation and the dances in high school. We'll be okay.
yeah, so I'm not sure I was gonna walk anyways, but regardless, the week before, I mean, I was taking finals, like I was doing my senior design project. It was my senior capstone. So it was just interesting that's how it all played out. I definitely did not ride nearly as much as I think we thought I was going to.
Yeah, the
It's
plan
funny
was
because-
to ride a lot more, but you did get a couple local races in. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
maybe that one A-Works that kind of was like almost ruined you?
Yes, let's do a little recap on the pre-GNCC.
So she rode down south with me one time. She actually rode my practice bike one
Yeah.
day, and she's like, that was so much fun. We
It
were
was
at
at
Todd
Todd
Jones's, and the track's obviously one of the most fun tracks. It's on 60 acres. Beautiful.
It was like
piece.
sandy berms. I mean, I was just flowing. And what's funny is Josh's 4-wheeler is set up for Josh. So, and obviously Josh and I are different sizes, like whatever.
I'm a lot heavier and I go a lot faster, so
Yeah.
it's stiff.
When I was used to, I had lowered subframe, lowered tank. Like I had
Honda.
and a Honda, and the 250 that I was on that I loved was a titanium bike. So not only it was tiny,
Super
it was just
light,
tiny.
and then you go to a Yamaha with tire balls.
It's super heavy and square. And I'm like, but I had fun on his 4-wheeler. And I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. But what I didn't like, and I still to this day don't like, is practicing alone. I'm out there in the woods, just all by myself. I don't see anyone for about 30 minutes. Even when Josh just tried to ride with me, I get nervous when he's behind me. And then when anyone's in front of me, it's about like 5 seconds, and then bye.
They're gone.
Don't see you for 30
So
minutes.
talked about this A-Works race so I didn't race, and we actually went out there for you to get some riding time, and it was a little muddy.
I think it had rained a lot the day before.
Yeah, the day before, but they said the conditions will be decent, which I think they were, but then they threw in some surprises. What was that?
Yeah.
So we get to this race, it's a little muddy, and I was behind you off the starting line. You got a good start. Kind of take me through that.
I feel like I should preface this by saying the 1 or 2 times that I rode with my dad were on public land. It was like a riding park.
Okay.
So I had rode maybe like 10, 15-minute spurts, and that was it. And then I raced CJ Raceway first.
You raced CJ before that?
Yeah, before A-Works.
Okay.
Remember? Because you raced with me.
Yes.
And to my huge surprise, it was extremely cold at the CJ Raceway. I won by 5 minutes. My parents, it was their first time we weren't sure if I needed to do a pit stop. They were having a hard time seeing me because it was a little bit muddy. But I come by them and I'm like, what place am I in? Do I need gas? And they're like, we don't know. We don't know. So I had a blast though that race because I was riding with people the entire time. I started in the very last row because it's where they put the women's class. And
I got to lap you that race.
That was so much fun.
I
that was a highlight.
I did a little stealth move and didn't go very fast, and I was just riding behind her for probably a good minute or two rather than just catching her blowing by.
I was waiting for him because you can hear, and I know that I'm slow, so I'm waiting for him. I'm also the last row.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, and then I was like, all right, I gotta go just in case someone is catching me.
So I had a blast at that one. It was a great time. I think I just loved riding with people. I did hit a lot of bottlenecks.
Did you hit any trees that CJ versus CJ?
No. So I'm coming off of my first win, back. It's this really big deal, whatever. So we go to
and
this.
that was an hour and a half race. That one was.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And then, I was still tired though. I had my first leg cramp. But it still was manageable. I was like, okay, this is definitely hard, but I think I can do this. Because I went out and I won, and so I was like, this is
easy.
Fine. I totally
easy. I told you, Josh. I told you.
And
let's go back to this. It was when me and Maci first started dating. Maci, her mom and her dad were like, "Yeah, she's a champion." And I'm like, "No, it's not the same though." I try to preface
he tried to warn us.
Yeah, it's 2 different worlds. Don't expect her to just go out and kill it, and then she goes and wins by 5 minutes, and it set us up for failure.
It really did. But the other part of the issue is like I had said, my last year, so the woman who had won the WMX Pro or whatever you want to call the class, I don't know if it was that same year or the following year, started racing GNCC. I think, was she doing both?
I don't know if she was racing ATVMX too, but she was in women's.
And she was in women's pro. She wasn't winning.
In GNCC, yeah. She got 1 or 2 podiums in the couple years that she raced.
So I looked at that and I was like, okay, she can do it. I can do it. I've always been one of those people where if you can do it, I can do it. There's nothing I feel like I can't do. That's a blessing and a curse, and I'll just leave it at that. So, but I also was like, I kind of forgot. I took however many years off. 7, 8 years off. So not only was I off, but I'm older now. My body's sore. I'm not nearly in the same shape as I was when every 16, 17, 18-year-old kid is in better shape than, I don't know, arguably. Every situation's different.
They bounce back better. That's for sure.
So fast forward to the A-Works. At this point, I rode rocks at that first CJ Raceway. But other than that, it was a little bit muddy, but it wasn't terrible. And then we go to A-Works. not only is it wet, they run us through flowing creeks, like not even like slow. I wouldn't even say they were fast flowing creeks. They were fast flowing rivers. At one point, I told Josh that my four-wheeler was floating down the river. I wasn't even having to accelerate. He was just it was just going down the river, and it was coming up over my front plastics, which I was really upset about. And I actually,
This was on her new 450. Well, her bought 450 off of Johnny.
and you have to think too, in motocross, the four-wheelers are so temperamental. They run them all the way on the edge because it's only a 10-minute race for amateurs. So I'm used to, like, anytime we have a mud race, it either they would cancel if it was raining, or like it was just only 10 minutes and our four-wheelers were extremely temperamental. No water. Absolutely. Like, and any mud, we were doing just light mud prep the way that you guys do rain race prep.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, my four-wheeler is going to explode. This is so bad. This is terrible. I was like so upset that my four-wheeler was getting water all over it. I couldn't fathom it. So, they took us through like 3 or 4 fast flowing rivers, and I'm not referring to them as creeks. I'm referring to them as rivers. I was really upset about it. There was one hill that was pretty wet, and I actually got stuck on the hill once. That was my first hill experience.
Like big hill.
Big
This
hill.
is not a. It's
But
actually a very big hill, and
it was covered
a
in
lot of people
leaves,
struggled.
and then I was all wet, so everything was like slippery. And luckily, people were willing to help me, and I was kind of freaking out. I was like, I'm rolling down the hill. I'm definitely flipping. They had helped me. I'd got out of it. But between the bottlenecks, the mud, the flowing rivers, I was angry. I was like, this is not for me. I was so dirty. It was just not like, sometimes after motocross races, I could come out, my hair looked like I was just getting ready to go to the mall. Like, I didn't even break a sweat sometimes.
And you were soaking wet, cold, and muddy.
And it was just, I was thinking about how much we were going to have to clean. And I was like, this is
When you got off the track, you said,
that was the biggest ever. So, yeah. After that, I think I slowed my roll a little bit.
Yeah, so I think you took like a little, okay, I'm going to take a step back again. I got to finish school because you weren't even done school yet.
I think that was in like March or April.
We were ahead of schedule and under budget at that point. And then I talk you into racing the Hoosier. The Hoosier is Ironman just without the hills.
Which I raced Ironman, I don't know how many times. For
You
motocross,
raced Ironman motocross, correct. So you come into Ironman and you're like, okay, we obviously know who was the dominant couple in the class. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I want to keep up with them. Mm-hmm. And kind of just take me through. It looks like.
So the cool part about this race was Kara, Josh's sister, who used to race. She raced women's pro. She also retired for a while. She's been retired.
Yeah,
and then
for a really long time.
She raced the first round, and then she'd taken a break, I think, maybe raced one more, and then she was racing this one too. So I got to line up to her. For whatever reason, we decided to wait until the very last minute to line up. And
you guys were all the way on the outside?
Yeah. So I didn't know really how to approach the race. At first I was like, I think I'm just going to like go as fast as I can on the first lap. And then like, maybe if I'm far ahead, then it won't matter because when I get tired, they'll be tired. But if they just catch me a little bit, I'll already be far ahead. If I'm complacent on the first lap, then by the time I get tired, they will be somewhat tired, but ahead of me. So I don't know.
Like at your locals, you had one win. And what did you get at the A-Works? Do you remember? Did you get first at the A-Works also?
I won the A-Works too.
So you have 2 wins at locals, and then you come into the GNCC, and you're like, if I'm far ahead, I'm just going to keep going. And
we knew that this was a fast track, and we figured that I was going to do decent at fast tracks.
Yes.
Just because.
This is your first 2-hour race also.
Yes. First 2 hours.
Well, A-Works was 2 hours. You didn't get lapped, though, either. So you did race over 2 hours that race. Mm-hmm. But
it was cold, and
yeah, this
you know.
was a warm race.
Mhm.
So you're on the starting line. You're all the way to the inside next to Kara.
There was a lot of women at this class in
Yeah,
this race. There was
18 girl.
18 women that started, which is absolutely insane. So the other part was, obviously motocross, you start live start and live engine, I should say, and it's a gate drop. I was extremely good. My reaction times are generally really good. We did a few practice. I pulled the whole shots, or one at least, when we did the locals. But the thing was, there weren't that many women at the local races, so I didn't have a problem with hearing my four wheeler start. It was a different story when there were 18 women next to me.
And then there was classes behind you, classes already taken off.
Oh, and my nerves were like...
I mean, you had 10 plus rows in front of you.
Yeah, my nerves were through the roof, which is so crazy because...
I'm sitting there trying to calm you down, and you're yelling at me for no reason.
That was a different one, I think. That was a different one. We'll get to that. So, I am here. Kara is here. Kara is in neutral, and I can't find the start button. So here goes our class, and then Kara looks over at me, and I look at Kara, and I'm like, well, here we go.
Here we go.
So somehow it actually worked out in my favor. I'm not sure how. Right when you go into the woods, there was a large bottleneck. I popped in right behind McKenna. We took an outside line, and
you were third place coming.
I was third place coming
into the next field section.
So I rode the first lap with McKenna. That was most fun. Yeah. Still, I think maybe the whole season I had was the first lap of the Hoosier riding behind McKenna.
First and second lap.
Because for the first time, I felt like was going the pace that I wanted to go, in the sense of all of those locals. The majority of my first two laps were bottlenecks and just trying to pass people. Just because I was at the very last row.
Yeah.
So. McKenna is she's been racing for a few years, so I think she has a good sense of the tracks, and so she was able to make really good line choices, and I was just following right behind her. I was having a blast. We were going fast, and I was just thinking, this is what this is supposed to be. I was having so much fun. I was yelling at people, and not yelling, but I was cheering at people when I'd see them in the woods. If you see me in the woods, please, I'm not even saying you have to cheer for me, but if you wave or you know who I am, that is what gives me energy. It's kind of like you're giving me a bottle of water at that point. It is the highlight of my race to see people. I will yell. I will cheer back at you. I'll give you. I'll almost wreck just to give you a fist pump. But so I was having a blast.
First and second lap, third place coming through the finish.
And then I get tired.
2 seconds off of McKenna on the second lap, and then third lap.
I was pretty okay with. I knew that I wanted to be with Malia or McKenna. That was kind of my goal if I could. And then I got really tired. Really tired. I think on lap 3, I had hit a tree and I got stuck. And there was another woman rider. I want to say it was Kala McCormick, I think. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her name, but she actually got it for four-wheeler and helped me because I couldn't get it unstuck, which I'm super thankful for. So I want to say I was in 5th at that place at that point, maybe even 4th. And then I was extremely tired. And then if you know Hoosier, there's a rock guard, it's kind of like a death zone, honestly. I hate it. It's like an S turn back to back, and it's logs down, rocks, all this pretty gnarly terrain. And I wanted to go right, and my four-wheeler just kept going straight. And so I hit a stump a down log pretty hard, and I got myself wedged in there pretty good. So what did I end up doing?
You ended up 8th place.
Yeah, so I think I went from 5th and then to 8th because it was halfway through the last lap that had happened. And I mean, I was exhausted. It was hard for me to even get my four-wheeler off of there. So it was a bummer that had happened. I think I rode really well in the beginning, but those are true rookie mistakes where I feel like you feel like you can go so fast, and then the trees just come so much faster.
So after your first GNCC and you're like, holy smokes, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Was it you had a different mindset after that, coming into your next race, or?
Yeah. So another thing to mention is I was working part-time and I was going to school full-time when this happened. So my schedule was super flexible sort of. I worked from home 2 days a week. I went into the office 1 day a week, and then I had classes 2 days a week, even though I was taking 18 credit hours. I just got my stuff done. I was able to get a lot done and kind of use time wisely. But with that being said, I then transferred into working full time. My commute is quite long. So 4 days a week being in the office, it's a long drive and I'm just tired. Like I tell Josh every day, I use my brain and my brain is just exhausted. My body, I feel like I could run a mile, but I just can't even muster up the courage to do that. So that was another hard transition that I had to make. Being sedentary all day long.
Yeah.
I was used to being a very active person.
And it's not like you were riding or hitting the gym in between races either. So it was like you're taking that break. You were getting your stuff done.
I was doing like, I really, really enjoy yoga. I was doing that just for like personal, I guess, goals.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't doing it.
It's something you enjoy. It's your hobby. It's your actual
my hobby.
main hobby. Yeah.
And so I was doing that just for fun. I wasn't like, at one point I was like, yeah, I'm really going to take this serious and like try to work on the cardio. That didn't last long. I was like, this is not, I don't know. I'm not trying to go out there and be crazy. So
the few times you rode with me, you were like, you did a lap or
you
just weren't into it.
I tried. So after the Hoosier, I think something flipped in my mind where I was just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a weekend. Josh likes to call it like weekend warrior.
Yeah.
Where
There's
I
nothing
just
wrong with being a weekend warrior.
I think it really is off-putting when I have to go practice by myself. And the other thing is we were practicing at Cole's track, Cole Richardson's, and it's really rough for me. Like some of it's train tracked, and I just didn't feel like I was fast or strong enough to use the berms to my advantage. And so it was technical.
It's like a PM track there, and it's totally understandable. You don't ride stuff like that until your last lap, maybe.
Yeah. So not only was it physically hard, it was technically hard, and I was riding by myself, and I'm just sitting there, and I had kind of had the conversation, like with the way that I ended my moto career, with there just being so much pressure. I was like, why am I putting pressure on myself? The whole reason that I started racing again was to go out there and have fun. Yep. I'm already here because I'm with Josh. Like, this was just to add to more memories, and why not try it out? So that is kind of when I think maybe some people would assume that because I'm dating Josh and I'm with a pro, like I'm riding as much as he is, I'm getting all but
yeah, but you're at work.
I will be the first to say I am kind of like one of those young kids that needs to go to a camp to listen to someone else. Because when Josh tries to tell me, I don't know if it's because I'm nervous and I don't want him to like think I don't know what it is, but I will honestly tell you, I think Josh has maybe given me a few tips, but we have done zero drill work. You'd think I'd use him more to my advantage, but maybe at some point I'll figure that out. I don't know. So we pretty much from there, like
skipped round 7. I don't know which one was round 7.
I became a fair weather racer at that point. And was that snowshoe?
Was that snowshoe?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely skipped snowshoe. I was just trying
7
to race.
Was John Penton.
Oh, because it was a mud fest. Definitely wasn't doing that. So then we went to Mason-Dixon, which I believe is High Point, correct?
Yes.
So I had raced. That was my first motocross race for ATVMX. So I kind of knew where I wanted to be. Like I had said, I knew that McKenna and Malia were up there. I had a blast riding with McKenna, so that was kind of my goal.
So you get
that was dusty. That was
the Mason-Dixon,
race.
And it was your first dust race.
Yes,
because normally moto tracks are prepped. They're beautiful,
super prepped.
All that kind of stuff. So this is your first. It was super dusty there, and you came through the finish line 11th on the first lap.
So again, terrible start. Missed the start button. I actually, I didn't have the key on this one.
No, I didn't have the key on this one.
Didn't have the key on. So, as you're gonna see, this is a trend.
And Kara also had a bad start because
Kara also raced this one.
Yeah, she made it about 4 feet and then stalled somehow. I don't know.
So we are 0 for 2 on this starting trend. So I come out 11th, but I was still not really working on I wasn't being patient at all. So there's a bottleneck right when we get in the woods, and I think I see a great line to the right. Nope. So I come out, and when I try to come back in the main line, I'm stuck at a 90-degree angle. I'm just not strong enough to lift my four-wheeler up over the rut. Here come these 4x4s trucking. I don't know how they didn't rip my back axle off. I'm sitting on the back of my four-wheeler, like I'm standing off to the side telling, please stop, please stop. I thought they were going to hurt my four-wheeler so bad. I still don't know how they didn't. So that made for a pretty tough first lap. I think I definitely overrode. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm sure that the people that were behind me that lap were like, what is she doing? I would pass, and I'm not exaggerating, probably 2 or 3 people. I'd hit a tree, they'd pass me back.
That's a rookie mistake.
It happened a lot that race, and I remember I was really upset. I was pretty defeated at that point. I'd hit a couple bottlenecks. I felt much better after the lap 2.
Lap 2, you ended up being in 7th, so you obviously made up some time.
I told myself finally, okay, let's slow down and just stop hitting stuff and just be a little bit more consistent. And then the pit stop, I felt better after that. I got a fresh pair of goggles, whatever.
So you're 7th in the 3rd lap, and then you got all the way down to 6th place, which your last lap was literally only 40 seconds off of 2nd places.
So
and you were faster than 3rd, 4th.
I was pretty tired my last lap, and I do know that right within, like, I want to say the last couple miles, I could hear that there was someone in front of me, and as tired as I was, I wanted to be done. At this point, this is when, and I even realized it at the other, the Hoosier, but I was like, man, this is so much harder than I ever thought it was going to be. Like, I had this in my mind where, like, they were not going that fast. It just really wasn't. Josh makes it look really, I mean, all the pros, but Josh really makes it look easy, like, day in and day out. And then I did it, and I was like, holy crap. Like, my body was so sore. I was so tired. I was acting like a baby, but I was just exhausted. So at this point, lap 4, I was upset that I didn't get lapped.
Yeah,
in all honesty.
Didn't get lapped.
But it worked out in my favor. Because
17 girls, 16 girls in your class in this one too.
Yeah.
So there's a good amount of people again.
So I actually passed someone like with a couple miles left on the last lap, which made the last lap worth it. I was like, okay, I feel better now for not being lapped.
Yeah, you beat her by 7 seconds.
Yeah. So I think I mean, it came down to the wire on that one. And with everything that had happened in the beginning, I still kind of took it as a good learning experience, even though I made a lot of really silly mistakes.
As you should have, because, I mean, coming from back of the pack in a dust race to get in 6th is really good, especially if you did make that many mistakes. You're constantly learning, so you can use that at the next dust race. Mm-hmm. So I see where you're coming from, but it's nothing to hang your head over. I mean, you got to get a good start in dust race, but not getting a good start and ending up 6th is a good day.
Yeah. So after this race, we ended up making a switch to my front tires, and I stopped hitting so many trees, which was really great. I'm really glad we made that switch. It was big for the program.
Yeah.
So I took a break after Mason-Dixon because I skipped snowshoe. I'm so excited for snowshoe start next year. Even if I don't do a full lap, super excited to do.
So you went to the Mountaineer next,
which is the Boy Scout camp, right?
Yes.
I love the Boy Scout camp. This was my favorite race of the year.
16 girls, and they all made at least one lap.
Everyone thought that I really wasn't gonna like this race, right?
Yeah. So I was like telling her, I was like, I think you'd like it. I think it would definitely be like a mini snowshoe. Like, it will test you. And everybody else was like, oh, this is going to be your 3rd race for the year. I wouldn't do this. And I was like, don't say that. Like, you're going to scare her and she's not going to end up racing. And she ends up loving this race. And
what did I do on this race start?
I
did something bad again. I think I forgot. I couldn't find the start button again.
Yeah,
it was just hard. I couldn't gauge when the four-wheeler was actually starting, and I think I would let the clutch out before. And so
you messed up on the start, and you were on your first lap. You came through 9th place, and how did the race go? Like, obviously, ninth on the first lap, ninth, second, eighth, and then sixth. You did end up getting lapped. There was only 4 girls that made the full race that didn't get lapped. And you said it was like the most fun race of the year. Like,
Oh, so my
something that
first lap, I'm sorry, I'm trying to like go back through my files here. The first lap got held up like a good probably 3 or 4 miles where we were just in a train and it was pretty rough to kind of work through. It was not it was not great. It was kind
now
of
when you're out there,
frustrating.
is it like girls in your class, or is it like people in front of you that are causing the bottlenecks?
It depends. It seems like to get I don't yell at all. That was a piece of advice Josh gave me, is do not yell, especially when they hear women and girls' voices. They don't want to let you by.
Guys will not let a girl go by if you yell. Like, you need a rev, or you have to like get close to them, make them nervous, because once they find out you're a girl, that man in them, or whatever you want to call it,
I'm not getting beat by a girl.
I'm not getting beat by a girl is what goes through their head, and they try something, either they wreck or they finally let you by.
Yeah, so that's a little bit frustrating. I'm not scared to rev at them, but it is frustrating. So this class, we were riding in a group of a mix of women from our class and then 4x4 sport quads. It was a mix. And then also, I mean, I still am trying to learn patience of bottlenecks, in addition to if there is a smart line to take around, can I do that? Yeah. So that's a big challenge for me. But once I think I got out of the third lap once I did the pit stop,
you were an 8th on the third lap.
I was able to kind of really find my groove. I felt like the third lap I rode by myself a good bit, and then I felt a lot better. I think I kind of broke away.
Yeah, you were almost a minute faster than the 2 girls in front of you on the 4th lap.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun. I think it was a little bit warmer there, but in general, I think I was exhausted, but I was just having fun.
Yeah,
so I didn't really care. At that point, it was more just about like, this is an experience and I'm trying to go out there and like kill it.
The picture from the finish line with your parents, you were a lot less tired looking also. And it's not like you did anything crazy training wise. I think it was just more fun. So mentally it was less draining.
Yeah. I also think the difference between this race and the Hoosier, at least, was like the Hoosier, it was as fast as we could go the first lap. This first lap, I was going so much slower than I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then the first lap of the previous race, Mason-Dixon, I pulled my 4-wheeler out about 7 trees. So that extra exertion that I was putting out trying to move a 4-wheeler, I think also wore me out. So although I did not get as good of a start as I had wanted here, and pretty much all of them, it was a better race. So then we moved into Newburgh, West Virginia, which is the Buckwheat, which was CJ Raceway, the one that Josh and I in the previous podcast had mentioned we had raced twice before. So I really liked, obviously I won my first GNCC local there. I really liked it. That way is what we called forward. We went back like a month later and we rode it what we called backwards. I only made it like half a lap. I hit a tree and I hit my hand really hard.
Yep.
And I didn't finish the race. I stopped and I just had helped Josh pit and watched his day kind of unfold. So, but I did tell Josh I hated that track backwards, or what we called backwards. I was like, this is not the same. I don't know if it was just because I was having fun the first one, whatever. So I, again, did not like this track backwards. I false started, actually.
You did.
I didn't pull off, but my 4-wheeler started early. And then once everyone else kind of went, I went once the flag raised. So I figured if I had done well, maybe someone had said something about it. I don't know.
Yeah, mentally you're like second guessing yourself at that point, and you're like, okay, well I'm not the pro, so maybe they won't hold me up or whatnot. But
I honestly was like, it is what it is.
If
anything, I was hoping maybe they wouldn't hold me, but just like dock me at the end. Because if they held me, I think that really wouldn't have been great.
You came through 4th on your first lap and then moved to 2nd on your second.
Yeah. So my first lap, my goal was to be patient. I was making a lot of mistakes in the previous races. So I followed behind Tori and I believe, there was someone in between Tori and I think it was Mackenzie Luckadoo, and then it was me, and then right behind me, I want to say was. I'm not sure who was in. I'm not sure who was right behind me.
Lila was in third. Out
yeah.
the first lap, and then where's fourth? I don't even see
That
fourth.
was me.
Oh yeah, you. Fifth is Haley Fowler.
Okay, so we were all pretty close, and Haley was following me.
2 seconds behind you.
Yeah, so she was following me. I was really proud of this. I actually passed Tori and who was in
Lila?
Yeah, I passed them in one line. It was technically
It's your first
an outside.
ever?
Yeah, before this, people had either let me by. I hadn't made an in-race pass. So this, even though I hated the track as much as I did, I was like over the moon about that. I was like, I can't wait to get off the track and tell Josh, which I must mention the entire time that I am out there, I am trying to make mental notes of like, okay, this is the 4. There's a really scary drop off here. I have to tell Josh. Oh my God, I can't imagine Josh going over this at 4th gear. Oh my God, it's so scary. Like, so I'm going pretty slow, but then I also think about how fast Josh goes over it, and it stresses me out so bad thinking about that he's going to be out there going so fast. And I'm like, this is so dangerous. But I'm trying to make mental notes. Do you know how many times I've come off the track and told Josh, hey, don't do this, this, and this? Like once, I think I've given him, I can never get off fast enough. And then even when that's the case, I can't remember them all. So I spend all this time during the race, like my mind is consumed of like, I have to tell Josh that, I have to tell Josh that, and it never works. But I was super proud of that pass. So I went to second, and then I could hear that Tori was coming back. Like I had started to get a little bit tired at the 3rd lap. I had made a mistake. She had passed me, and I want to say at that time, maybe it was Colin McCormick who was then behind her. They had both passed me. And then I made a pretty bad mistake, and my hand had hit the start button, and it ripped the start button cords out, and I was on an uphill. And when I tried to roll down, like I was going to try and bump start it, I just wasn't. I got stuck. It was like a fire road, and I got stuck in like a rain rut, and my hand, it's actually still bruised. It was cut pretty bad. I couldn't, from like where the metal was for the clamp for the start button.
Yep.
I'm not sure I could have finished the race either way. So there were some positives.
Got pulled in about an hour after the race.
I was freezing out there. It was pretty cold.
My race was about to start.
Yeah, so there were some positives. Like I said, I'm still over the moon about that pass. It was fun. But then it was sad to kind of see everyone go by, and I'm just sitting there. And I did try to take, at first I didn't realize that the start button the cables were ripped out. So I did try to take my seat off, see if there was something electrical in there. It wasn't that. And then once I realized one of the cables was mixed up, I tried like making a connection, and it didn't work. And then I didn't realize there was like a rubber stopper gasket. So all said and done, if I maybe would have tried a little harder, I could have got started,
sure
but I'm not even sure I could have got
your
it
adrenaline
finished.
was going crazy. Your hands were shaking. You were cold and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It was probably hard to fit in that little tiny hole.
Yeah, so it wasn't great. I got really dirty for not finishing.
Yeah. Well, you got 3 laps, and at least it didn't happen after the first lap and getting dirty.
So the positives I took away from that was being able to make a legitimate pass. I was actually patient for once. And my start, although I false started, I actually started. So it wasn't terrible.
We got started late, and then we got started early.
And I was like, okay, at that point I told Josh, I'm like, I think I've done every bad thing I could do. So for a start, I think I'm due for a good start.
And guys, we were practicing starts more than we were practicing riding at that point.
Yeah, I wasn't riding at all at this point. I don't think, and we didn't do any more locals.
We did ride before Ironman at your dad's place, and we did practice starts.
I did a 10-minute lap. I did 10 minutes of riding.
You didn't even.
And then I did like 10 starts.
10
maybe.
starts, yeah.
So Ironman.
The real Ironman, last round.
Real Ironman.
So her 5th round for the year.
Mm-hmm.
There's 17, 18, 19 girls in your class, a full row.
So McKenna and Malia had both moved up to pro at this point. So I was feeling pretty good, honestly. I had thought in my mind, I'm like, okay, you know, here, my first lap, I was able to ride third at the Hoosier, and the only two people in front of me were McKenna and Malia. So let's, you know, I should be able to do somewhat okay.
Definitely.
It was hard because the during the race, as I was going through, it wasn't counting everyone in my class correctly, so I thought I was in second all day.
One of the girls
I think was on a
transponders. I think it was
Honda.
Alexis the Keys.
Who had won?
Yeah.
She was on a Honda.
Something
so,
about Hondas and transponders don't go good together.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun. I got a little tired. I mean,
You had a good start this race?
I did have a good start.
You were like, I think, well, you came through the first lap in third, but I think you started like fourth or fifth. And by the time you got into the woods, you were in like second or third.
I will say this field section I felt like was different than the past ones. The berms shaped up nice for our race. And I was actually able to I was working off of the berms, which was really important. But I'll give these girls credit. Like, in all honesty, like I said, when I came into this, I had really underestimated not only this style of racing, but the racers themselves.
Yep.
And they brought their A game. I was really impressed. I should have probably given that respect up front, and that was a foolish mistake of my own. But so yeah,
third on the first lap, and then you dropped to sixth on the second lap. What happened there? You remember? You didn't hit anything that race.
Oh, so okay, because this was Ironman, and I was in like the 10th row, maybe.
Yeah,
there were so many bottlenecks. It was
there was like
so
500
frustrating.
something people in your race.
There was like 576, I think. 500, yeah. So many people. So it was like beyond, for me, just trying to be a patient rider. That was like my big goal for these last couple races. I was having a really hard time. So myself, Tori, I want to say like Anna Nicely, Kenzie McAdoo, and Colin McCormick, like we were all riding together on the first two laps, and someone would get ahead because one or two of us was sitting behind a bottleneck, and they would come up and see and be able to take an outsider out. And then maybe 3 minutes later, they'd be stuck in a bottleneck, and we could come up and take the outsider out. And I can't tell you, that happened probably up until the third lap. That was happening at probably every 3-4 miles. Like, it was insane. And it's like you want to be patient, but you want to be aggressive because you see that this is continuously happening, but you don't know when it's going to stop and how long. Like, some of them were taking an extremely long time.
Sitting in a bottleneck is not fun, and it makes your mind go crazy, especially when you see girls or anyone going in your class around you, because there's an open line right behind you, but there's 3 quads behind you.
And the other part is so like when you are getting in bottlenecks, and then the people who are behind you are then passing you, to repass them, you were in front of them, you were for a good reason, and then they don't want to let you around, which is so, it makes me so mad. I'm like, especially like, it's one thing if it's it's a long bottleneck and they're like 30 seconds and I have to track them down. But if we both pull off a bottleneck at the same time and you were behind me and then you take off in front of me, it is so infuriating when you want to spend a mile and you won't let me back around. I know it's racing. I know people will say get better and just learn how to pass them. But like, I don't know, be courteous.
Move out of the way.
I don't know. Have a little bit of self-awareness to be like, you know what? I should just let them around. Because 9 times out of 10, in that scenario, it took them to make a mistake to be like, oh, I am tired. Maybe I should let them around. Which is dangerous for all parties involved. So I'm going to stop ranting about that and move on.
I haven't raced the morning race in a very long time, but
it was just mass
I understand
chaos.
from watching. There's some people that are trail riding in the morning race and they start ahead of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of crazy that can even happen. But yeah, it's not good to see. So the next lap you were in third. So
but I thought I was in second.
So you thought you were second.
Thought I was in second. So I was like, okay, I was more than happy with second. And I can't even say that if I knew I was in third, I was going to make a difference. Because the track connects at so many different points on that fourth lap. I was excited to see the 4x4s. I was pretty tired. I was thinking to myself, like, all right, I'm ready for this race to be done. I really enjoy getting to go up to the line with Josh and prep for his race. And it really upsets me when I can't be there, because if I don't get lapped, I'm one of the last ones on the track.
Yep.
And so it makes it extremely hard for me to be a part of his race day too. So I was extremely frustrated, but on that last lap, I could see fourth place Tori. I could see her coming up behind me. And as tired as I was, that was probably one of the hardest things mentally and physically I had to do. I knew that I had worked so hard that entire race. I'm like, I can't let in this last like 4 miles. I can't let this third place. I thought it was second, but I was like, I can't let this second place go. Are you kidding me? So I tried, which I'm sure was so awful looking. I'm sure I looked so bad out there trying to like muster up the energy to ride. But
you raced for 2 hours and 26 minutes that race.
Yeah, that was one of, and I'm not exaggerating, the hardest things, like I said, mentally and physically I had to do. So I ended up getting third. I showered extremely quick and I tried to run up. So Josh was like trying to wait for me like very last minute to get up to his start. I was like, I can't, I have to shower. Like, I'm literally disgusting. I'll try and run up there. So I'm like trying to run up the motocross track hills and I'm like ready to pass out. I'm like, ow. Like, please don't look at me. If anybody is seeing me, please don't look at me. I was in so much pain. I don't know. But all in all, I think I really would have liked to have done better. Would I have loved to win that race? Yeah. But all things considered, with how many bottlenecks I hit the first 2 laps, it was just insane. I can't say I should have done anything better because I didn't cause any of the bottlenecks and it was just the wrong place at the wrong time. I learned so much. I had a lot of fun. Actually, what I had made a comparison of
both girls that beat you were also from Indiana, so they are used to that dirt and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I always say this, I hope everyone brings their A game to every race. I've never wanted to do well and anybody who does not as well or even better than me say, well, oh, I had this happen or that happen. I always want every race to be fair and square and everyone to put their best effort forward. But I told Josh, back to what I was saying about this metaphor, I told Josh, I'm like, I'm 25 for those who don't know, because I didn't say that on my intro, but this is kind of like drinking, like having a party night out racing. It sounds really fun. You get pretty excited, like the hype up for it. It's really fun when you're doing it. You're like super fun memories, like enjoying the moment, great time. Then after, next day, hangover, your body's sore, never doing this again. I don't know why do we do this? And then like a week later, you're like, I think I kind of want to do that again. It seems like a little bit of fun. So that's kind of like what I got in a gist for GNCC racing, because I am a self-proclaimed weekend warrior in the sense of, I'm just going out there and having fun. I'm not training as hard as I thought I was going to. That was kind of my take on it. I gained a lot of respect for Josh.
And everyone.
Everyone, yeah. But mainly Josh. Let's be honest.
I'm just glad you had fun. And I mean, we said last 3 and you ended up getting 5. So you're already ahead of schedule. And especially for, I don't even know if you can call that a rookie year because it's not a full season.
Yeah.
But it's very cool to see you grow each round. And I can see that you're learning, even though you're not riding during the week, which you can't because you're working. It's cool to see the progression.
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to do next year. We keep saying I'm racing a full season, and I think I might be. But with that being said, as far as how serious I plan to take, this is going to be Josh's most serious year.
Yeah.
So, and I do take that in consideration. I take into consideration the fact that this is Josh's much more serious hobby than mine. Like, this is Josh's lifestyle. This is just a hobby, something fun for me to do, something to keep my mind, or I guess kind of help my mind outside of work, and keep me active. So Josh is always a priority. His needs with racing always prioritize mine. And I'm happy to take a second place to that. Like it's not even up for discussion. But the other part of that is like I'm able to go with Josh and be there, and it's almost kind of like we're more involved because I'm not doing other things or I'm not spending time away from it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's got my family back at the track and more involved. I think my parents love racing just as much as I do. My parents are still more competitive. They are still more
They're
competitive.
still very competitive.
It's so much fun.
She doesn't
seeing
come
them
by
through.
like by the second, and Macy's mom's like, something happened. I'm like, just give her a second.
Shout out, Mama. Thank you for looking out for me. I
Yep.
know she would run. Both of my parents would run the entire track to find
easily.
me if they needed to.
Easily, they would try to fix it. They
My
would try
mom
to
would steal they actually would steal a track
to-
workers for
to fix it.
sure if
Yeah.
someone wasn't helping them.
It's
so-
funny because they can't see the race anymore.
Yeah.
They see
I mean,
one section.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, they don't, what do you sit there and wait?
Yeah.
And they have to, I think they have to get used to that still. And that's exciting for me because I get to sit there and I'm just like, relax. We can't, do anything.
Well, they could see my entire race from start to finish in moto. Like,
Yep.
not one part of the track, normally, not one of the part of the track could you not see. Or maybe you're just missing one corner rather than now they're seeing one corner for 30 minutes.
Yep.
And you don't really get a race recap until the race is over. You're like, why did you go from third to sixth? Or, what's going on? And then they see the videos of like the bottlenecks and the mass chaos that's happening outside of like just the little corners that they're seeing. They're like, holy
Very cool.
crap.
And I love that I could help your family get back into it.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are going to enjoy possibly, I don't know, if you do as many as you want next year. I don't care if you do 1 or if you do 12. I hope you just have fun. And I'm glad your parents are having fun with it and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a good time.
Yeah, it was a great first season. I think obviously I'm very lucky to have Josh and just in general pro that's kind of on my side of things and helping me and make sure at least I'm ready as much as I can be. Or my
Like my
four-wheeler.
little test project.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a rookie again, but I'm doing it through somebody else's
Yeah,
body.
It'd probably be a little bit easier if I wasn't so stubborn though. I can be pretty stubborn. So I would like to, I just want to take one last second to mention this is I had a lot of sponsors that put a lot of faith in me. I hadn't rode in a really long time. Some sponsors came from my moto career and then some just from kind of relationships I had built through Josh. So I'm extremely fortunate for the people who had faith in me and trust me to be a good representation of their brand. Action Off-Road, GBC, SSI, Wrath, Hauser, ODI, Moto Seat. Am I forgetting anyone? My mom and dad.
Yeah,
Rick
mom
Screen
and dad,
Service.
Rick Screen Service.
Obviously Josh. So the other part of it is, and same thing with those sponsors, but I tell Josh, I'm like, we are a representation of each other at this point. And so
Yeah.
I just want to make, we're trying to make sure we're on the same page of things. And so with that being said, since I am doing my first, hopefully full rookie year next year, if anyone has any questions of what Josh is telling me, what I'm asking Josh, let us know. I'm happy to share this experience with you guys and take it step by step. So my off-season training this year is going to be much different than Josh's. It'll be probably more practical for you weekend warriors or the people who are not as invested as your everyday XC1 pro rider. So if you guys have any tips and tricks you want to tell me about or something that should be mentioned, let us know. Again, we're super thankful that you're listening to us. I hope I can be the voice of the people who are in-betweeners.
The tweeners.
So thank you guys for listening. Like we always say at the end of every podcast now, we do have an Instagram at In the Rut Podcast. If you guys want to reach out to us, let us know. We love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, any questions you may have. Anybody who wants to partner with us, any sponsors that may want to reach out and have us promote to our listeners, we have an email at intherutpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to work with you. And we just appreciate the support.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'll see you later.
Peace.